I'm coming.
Wait, let me check my nose hairs. All right, forget it.
Howdy, all. Eck is coming to us from a CIA black site somewhere in suburban Toronto.
Right. I was wearing all black, so I thought I would put on this not black, very not black.
This is what Eck would look like in Flyers hell.
Right. This is my my vintage Bernie Parent. It doesn't,
Practice smog.
it smells like French perfume. So yeah, it's my vintage Bernie Parent.
I'm not going there.
that wasn't meant in any way, but that Bernie Parent's French and
No. No, just keep going.
I think he's more American than French now. I'm just gonna say.
Rudy is the nicest guy in the world. I love that. Him. Oh my gosh, what a good guy! Like so funny, and like for the fact that I just completely looked at him like a god for most of my life. It was unbelievable to interview him. That was the one player I think I've ever interviewed that was just, it really took me back. I mean,
yeah,
that really got me. It's like I drove him around the back of my car for one of my episodes of It always sounds like I abduct players when I say this. I drove him around the trunk of my car for a while, but
yes, on this edition of Hockey Buzz Uber.
Yeah, no, I used the show I did on Comcast where we had driving with Eklund.
Yeah,
I had hit Bernie Parent in one of the episodes, and oh my gosh, so cool to get a chance to meet him. Yeah, so this is in honor of him. This is my Flyer vintage, like what do they call this, Mitchell and Ness type thing,
Yep.
It's what I wear all the time when I do my travel soccer stuff, because I refuse to wear the team colors of that club that we played for before. Anyway, so there you have it.
Well, what are the colors? Why is it that you refuse to wear them? What are the colors?
No, it's just it's a long story. A long, ugly travel.
Why don't you just hold your fist up instead? All right, never mind.
Yes, I could do that.
Or you can kneel. Yeah.
Right. So I'm at a secret undisclosed location today. Tomorrow I will be back in the hotel, probably because I think we'll probably do the show in the afternoon-ish.
Okay. Well, I mean, you're gonna have to book a flight for Friday, because I seriously don't believe that the best of 3 series, 3 games. You're getting your microphone's cutting out.
You can't move around. You have to sit completely still.
Yes. Me?
Yes, you. Because if you move, then the mic gets distorted.
Oh, really? Sounds weird.
Yeah.
Okay, let me try this one thing real quick, and then because I'm gonna use this the other mic, which is on the webcam, because otherwise,
Okay.
All right, does this sound better?
Sounds okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay, right? And it won't matter if I move, right? You won't like.
No, it doesn't matter if you move, so that's good.
It'd be really hard to stay perfectly still on a stool with a laptop on my lap, literally.
Well, you couldn't do it on a ball. So
By the way,
I don't try that anymore, Russ. We know how that story ends. No.
By the way, that'll probably be the cover picture for the YouTube. Me going.
Oh yeah. Remember when I fell off the ball that I was sitting on before?
Oh yes. I still have the
photo. I have the photo somewhere.
It's in my children's favorite moments on YouTube. I noticed it. It really made me feel like I made it. Like a bunch of Good Mythical Mornings, a couple of these other shows that they watch all the time. And then me falling off a ball.
Daddy doing a header. There you go.
Yeah, they love that. That was really top notch. All right. This is nice and warm. I'll tell you that much. All right,
let's get started, please.
Start the show. Hold on. There we go. Let's do that. All right, ready?
Mm-hmm.
What's the date? The hell's the date?
Monday the 26th.
Thank you.
What's the year? I don't know. What the? Is it the 21st century?
Hey, by the way, Tim,
we just told this. I don't know if this is out there or not, but well, let's say it in the show. Okay, 26th. Okay. Hello, Hockey World. It's Monday, September 26th, 2016.
I'm Michael Agello at an undisclosed location.
I'm Russ Cohen, and I'm going to give a shout out to Team Israel for beating Great Britain and advancing to get to the World Baseball Classic. Go Team Israel.
Rock on. That's pretty good. Nicely done. And I'm Eklund. You're watching the Hockeybuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday at this time, or sometime after this time or before it. But sometime during the day to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. And, yeah, we've got lots to talk about today, of course, because we have a final. We didn't have a final last time we talked. And it's a surprising final a little bit, I think. But before we get into that, I was just texted. I don't know if this is out there or not. that Marchand's deal, which has been talked about, I'm going to add this to my blog, has a full no move clause for the first 5 years of it.
Yeah.
Is that out there?
Yeah, I did see it, but
Okay.
I think it just came out in the last few minutes. But
Damn you.
so I mean, we can talk about the Marchand contract because when I heard it come down,
Yes.
the first thing that popped into my head was, boy, Don Sweeney's feet must have been held to the fire. Marchand scored 2 goals in the game against Russia, because he's been doing what most quality NHL wingers have not been able to do.
Oh, yeah.
And that's play really well with Sidney Crosby.
Yeah, but it went one step further. Once Crosby started using a nickname for Marchand and sort of liked the way he played, that seemed to precipitate the contract a little faster.
You think this is the nickname theory?
Yes, this is definitely because, if they would have gone through the entire World Cup, and let's say Canada wins, and Marchand's a big part of that, Crosby would have had his hand around Marchand, being like, hey, Pittsburgh, that's the place you want to be, man. And so, the Bruins didn't want to see that happen, obviously.
Right.
Right. And I mean, this is no question. This is the World Cup of Hockey contract. He had a great year last year, but what we're seeing here is how well he can play with if the Boston Bruins can go out there and trade for Sidney Crosby. I mean, it's not possible, right? But he's still shown how impressive he is. He's obviously very impressive. I think the thing about him is, he's always been a let's call salt disturber person, and but this is the situation where he is, more than a salt disturber. He's actually showing his ability to score, and he's like the epitome of the evolution of the Sean Avery character. He's as far as you can go with it. It feels like, that player who's really annoying but can also play, and that Avery was that, but he couldn't play to this level.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he scored over 30 goals last year. Was entering the last year of his contract. The Bruins paid David Backes $6 million. And it sort of fits perfectly in the Bruins salary structure. If you look at it, Krejci's making over $7 million, which I think is actually a little overpaid for a guy who's had the injury problems that he's had.
Yeah.
Bergeron's making a little less than $7 million. They signed Backes, he's making $6 million. They had to give Marchand somewhere close to Bergeron and above Backes, and I think this that $6.125 million AAV is a good fit. But the 8 years, it signs him through 36, and he's 28 right now. I mean, 3-4 years.
Yeah, and he's not a young 28, So
that's the risk. That is the risk.
That is the risk here. I think it's a reasonable deal, though, for what they're getting.
They don't have a choice. I mean,
they really don't have a choice. And Boston is not a team that has a lot else going on, No. So this is also, I mean, they're definitely in on Trouba. They're going to be in on Fowler. We'll get to all that too. But I think that they don't have a big choice here, really. This is what they've got to do. They're at the point where, these two guys, Bergeron and Marchand are their pillars. That's what they got to build around, and they're seeing it that this is the best line in the World Cup with Crosby. But again, I say that's Crosby. I mean, Crosby is playing the best hockey of his career right now. This is we are seeing his peak, I think.
Well, yeah,
I think that's fair, but I also think it's fair to say that you can't just simply put anybody with Sidney Crosby. You do have to have a fair amount of talent, and it is working out for Marchand. Is Marchand getting a little Crosby bump? Yeah, of course.
Well, yeah, but the other thing I'll throw out is this. Okay, and this may not be fair as well, but the kind of defenseman in the World Cup of Hockey versus the kind of defenseman, on a Florida Panthers team on a Thursday. Let's think about there's a lot of really good offensive defensemen at the World Cup of Hockey, a few good defensive defensemen, not many physical defensemen, and in a way, Marchand's getting a chance to just run over these guys because there really is no one to stop him.
Right.
There's no one who he has to worry about. I mean, especially Ekblad might have been the only player, but he didn't even play him, and he's not even in the tournament. But honestly, there's nobody like that on these teams. You might. On Team Europe, you're going to see a little bit more of some of those type of players.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to see him battle against his teammate in Chara.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting.
even though they're getting through, Chara to me does not look NHL ready.
No.
You may have wanted to wait and sign this deal until after the final. That was something that came upon me. I mean, not that he's going to get hurt or anything like that, but my gosh,
Well, I mean, honestly, it was a good leverage play by the Bruins, because the thing is that if you go into the regular season with Marchand and he's putting up similar numbers to what he did last year, then he'll be entering free agency at 29 years old as somebody who scored 30+ goals 2 years in a row. He'd get probably as much or more on the open market than he would have gotten from the Bruins. Now the risk is, and I think this is why Don Sweeney maybe was proactive over the weekend, is you've got a team like Pittsburgh, where if the prospect of him playing with Crosby, I mean that he might have even been willing to take a little less to do that. So. I think they were smart to get this deal done. It's not an unreasonable deal in terms of amount. Right. It's a little bit unreasonable in terms of length, but you worry about that 5-6 years.
Yeah, you do, and I think that's fair too. I think there's a lot to this for sure, and then we have all these other players who are holdouts too now. So, and that comes into play as well. Like Gaudreau now. Gaudreau, how does he measure himself up against Marchand? Different players, obviously. Gaudreau is much younger, but and a better scorer, but it's gonna. I think Gaudreau now. If Marchand is getting 6.1, Gaudreau is at 7. I think that's fair, and I don't think that. I've always thought Gaudreau would be at 7 eventually, and I know they don't want to go to 7, but I've always thought that's very big.
I don't think Calgary wants to go above what Monahan's making, but the thing is, and Russ, Monahan, Gaudreau is 2 or 3 years older than Monahan.
He is, and that's. That's the part that you have to sort of look at too. I mean, that's a big factor. Yeah. I mean, Monahan gets almost the same amount of points. He plays center. If you go over that, it can't be by much. And they could say it's because he's a veteran, but they can't go like a million over, because then that could cause trouble down the road.
Mm-hmm. Sam. Anyway, I mean, I think the only way that would work is if they gave him 7. Maybe would have to be on a shorter term.
If they did shorter term, then they would be fine.
Right. Although, like we've talked about before, that's a real big risk with Gaudreau, because he's a guy from the East Coast who, from on occasions wouldn't mind playing back on the East Coast with the Rangers or the Flyers or the Capitals or something like that. So,
but if it's 5
he's from New Jersey.
Yeah.
But if it's 5 or 6 years, you're locking him up till age 29 or 30. I mean, that's not bad. I mean, you don't want to have to give him 8 years, $56 million, $7 million per. If you gave that type of lengthy deal to Monahan, and apparently they don't want to pay over 6.3
right.
to Gaudreau. So I mean, it's either going to have to be higher AAV and shorter term, or him taking the same amount on the same length deal. And I don't know whether that's going to.
Did Monahan get 7 or 8?
Monahan got 6.3.
No, I mean years.
Oh, 8. I believe you got 8. I'll check, but I believe you got 8.
Was it 7? Why do I think it was 7? It probably was 8. But,
I'm checking.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're very, they're different players, obviously.
7.
7. Okay, what's
7? So okay. They're not going to give Gaudreau 8 years. Then they're not.
Oh, that might be where they can get away with changing it. That might be how they can make it work, because I think they could,
because they're just paying for a year. They don't expect them to play, but.
Well, Gaudreau's going to play 8 years, though, left in the NHL. I mean, he's not that old.
We don't know. You don't know.
Maybe 32 in 8 years, right?
Yeah.
I'd be 31. I mean, you would think that.
His game is so based on speed act that if he loses a step, then he becomes, right now his, being 150, 155 pounds is not a detriment to his game, because he's so quick and he's so skilled. But if he starts to lose a step, then the size will mean something.
Size always means something, Mike.
Like, would you give 8 years? Like, here's an example. Would you give 8 years to Matt Zuccarello? The Rangers didn't.
Right, they wouldn't do that. I know, and that. I mean, I'm trying to think of the guys like I think of Theo Fleury or Danny Briere and how long they played. How effective they were.
Fleury weighed a lot more than Gaudreau. He did. He was a stockier guy.
Yeah.
Louis. I mean, he's
St. Louis too. Yeah.
Yeah, St. Louis, same kind of player, right? So then they played into their 30s. St. Louis.
Yeah, but they were stockier, bigger framed guys. They were.
Well, do we know that Gaudreau is not going to get a little bit stockier and bigger framed as we go?
I mean, he could get a little, but
we're talking the difference about being 155 pounds to 170, whereas a guy like Nathan Gerby or a guy like San Luis, they were 190, 195 pounds and 5'5". They were built like fire plugs. I mean,
right.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's a good point. But the NHL is also moving towards a faster, less hitting league, right? So
there's still hits. It's faster, but there's still hits.
Yeah.
And you still need durability, and I mean, maybe not weight does not equal durability. It's muscle, it's strength, but you have to probably be bigger than Gaudreau is right now.
Yeah, St. Louis 180. Gaudreau's never getting to 180.
Right.
Oh no, I can get him to 180. He comes over here, cheesesteaks. We got cheesesteaks all over in Philly. We can definitely fatten him up.
180, not a bad.
You don't want him to play at 180. You don't.
Yeah, no, I know. He's no, and he's a different kind of player. I mean, who can we compare? I mean, what 100 and
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to come up with
pound players have been factors in the NHL. It's not that many. I mean, we're looking at that's kind of a crazy thing, but he's incredibly fast and incredibly gifted. And so far has not seen his size matter at all, right? So as time goes on here, who's to say it's going to matter? He's the kind of player I think that is always going to be the way. I mean, the thing about him is he's so shifty that people do have to give him space. You cannot try to, you can't go after him because he's so shifty. So he creates his own space. He's just a unique player, and I think I think the 8-year deal is what I would guess is this: if they go 6.5 for 8, maybe that's where they fall. But if they go to 7 years, I think they got to go to 7, or else it's not going to get done.
All right, so here's where I would say it's comparable to, like, we'll go Cliff Ronning, right?
Okay.
And Ronning played in a tough era. He did play for a lot of years, but I would say he was off and on. Like, he definitely had years where he played full seasons and years that
he faced a lot of injuries. Ronning
he was hurt, and so he ended up getting 306 goals. But there were years where he had 22 goals, then he'd have 19, then he'd have 11, then he'd have 2, then he'd have 18, then he'd have, so it's like, it's hard to give 8 years when you do look at even a guy like Ronning, who was probably more durable than most, and you saw that, and sure, the league was more physical back then, but that is the possibility of what could happen. Because he did have, Ronning had 4 great years at the beginning. Like, one year he got hurt after his 3rd year, he got hurt his 4th year, but he had 24 goals, 29, 25, came back off of injury, 22. Then it took him like 5 more years to get to 26 goals again.
Yeah, and he was mostly a center, and Gaudreau's a winger. So but size-wise, they're
pretty close.
But I think Gaudreau is a more talented player. By the way, this another factor that should lead you to book your flight for Friday. Marian Gaborik has just left the Air Canada Center on crutches and his right foot is in a cast. So I'm sure the LA Kings are very happy to hear that, and Team Europe has lost probably one of their best offensive weapons.
He's got at least 2 goals in the tournament. Oh man, I mean, does this mean that they can they make an emergency call up? Are they at that point?
Nope, they're locked in at the roster.
No, you can't make any emergency call up. You're not allowed.
Who are the cuts here? Who are the guys who are scrapped?
I'll look, but I don't know.
It doesn't matter. I remember getting an email saying the roster is frozen. That's it.
But I mean, I know that if there was a rule that they said that if you got enough guys hurt, you could call up somebody.
Right, but they don't. I think he's the only injury. I mean, they already.
Yeah, I think he's the only injury too.
Yeah,
I mean,
they replaced Freddie Anderson.
Right.
I mean, I don't even know who you would call up, but
Well, I don't think Michael Bodker was in their lineup. Yannick Hansen.
Bodker, I'd say, is probably your best because he's actually a scorer. That's probably who you want to bring in.
Yeah, I think he was the scratch, so I think he's going to be the one to step in.
Yeah.
So I also want to touch base on this Clark MacArthur thing that happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Which is just horrendous, and I mean, I don't even want to show it, but
no, you should show it because I think there is an explanation for it, whether you like it or not.
Well, Mike can show it because I can't because he's running.
I don't have the ability.
Right. But for those, so Russ, tell us what happened.
All right. So basically, MacArthur was going into like the sideboards. He had the puck. Seeloff went in, and he definitely plastered him against the sideboards and skated away. Now, I don't think Seeloff did it with the intent of hurting his teammate. I think that was like muscle memory.
Right.
Like he is a physical defense. Well, hold on, he's a physical defenseman, and to me that did look like muscle memory because he didn't even think MacArthur was hurt. He just skated right off, and then the fight happened.
That's all. I mean, I'm not disputing that, but okay. I have to let people know this happened in a fan fest game. This happened in basically an open practice, and apparently from what I read over this morning, some of the Senators players are not too happy with Seeloff that he hit MacArthur in this game. And probably, I hope, because he's an ex-Leaf, and I've been in the locker room with him once or twice. Seemed like a good guy, and I don't want to see any player's career ended like this. But I mean, he's had repeated concussions. He only played 4 games last year. This is if it wasn't like a massive run from behind. It didn't.
No, I know.
It didn't seem like a really that big of a hit.
It's sad. It's a sad thing, obviously. It's not, it's not about Clark MacArthur's a really quality person and who's fought really hard.
He's been hurt a lot too.
Yeah, he fought really hard to get back from concussions. Concussions suck. They're a horrible thing. And this is just a case where hopefully it's not, it's a concussion that's not that serious, and maybe this, it's possible this could have protected him in some way, shape, or form down the line from taking a much harder hit that would have really knocked him out for in worse situations. I mean, it's possible that not something it did spur a fight, and
Chris Neal, yeah,
Bobby Ryan actually, and Chris Neal. Bobby Ryan's really the guy who started the whole thing, because as one of these Senators fans tweeted out, "Wow, Bobby Ryan just beat the bleep out of Patrick Seeloff for hitting MacArthur from behind. Ryan grabbed Seeloff and beat him up." What was that? No,
I have the hit here. Hold on a second.
So Ryan grabbed Seeloff, beat him up, and screamed, "You bleeping idiot!" after they got broken up. So that was
rotate first.
And this is of course Bobby Ryan, who's not on Team USA because doesn't have enough heart and is not aggressive enough. So just
right.
Too.
All right, 50 is Seeloff.
Okay.
And you'll see it should come up. Yeah, he's down now. Were you able to see it?
That's
the fight.
Yeah, I mean definitely.
Initial hit.
Yeah, it's out there too, and when it's
just go one more time. I mean,
here we go. Okay, so there's the
and that was it. And he skated off. I don't even think he thought MacArthur was hurt. This.
And Bobby Ryan defended himself by on Twitter by saying, "Listen, I just saw a guy I've known for 5 minutes, take out a guy I've known for 5 years, basically." And he said it just was not. I respect Bobby Ryan for doing this too. I do, honestly do. And like I've said before, I have a ton of respect for Bobby Ryan. So
I don't think Seeloff would have a problem with what Ryan did.
No, I don't think so either.
But I don't think the players are going to have as much of a problem with Seeloff as people think, because again, this is a guy who will be potentially doing this for your team. He is a big physical defenseman. This is how he plays. Right.
That's for sure. Hold on one second. Okay. All right. Let's shift gears for a second. I mean, and hopefully MacArthur. I mean, it doesn't look good, so we'll see what happens.
But we hope for the best. Like you said, maybe if he's out even like an extra 2 months, maybe it was better this way, like you said, and then maybe they did head off something, and maybe you never know. I mean, again, guys have come back that look like they'll never play again, Crosby included, and he's been great for how long without any problems. Like, you just never know. So
and obviously the biggest concern here is the health and welfare of Clark MacArthur, but the Senators, I mean, they're in a quandary here because we know how financially, their situation is always, the dollar has always been a big factor with the Ottawa Senators, and Clark MacArthur is another 3 years after this year at $4.65 million, and basically, if he's done for his career, and we hope he isn't, but if he is, that's $4.65 million the next 3 years that Eugene Melnyk is going to have to eat.
No. If he had insurance, if that's an insured policy, then it's they get 80% back.
Well, yes, but
the cap hit will still be the fix.
Yeah, the cap hit will be there.
Right, and I don't know. We've been made aware of certain situations like the Nathan Horton deal where it wasn't insured, and we don't know whether it was insured. probably was, but if it wasn't, then Ottawa's in deep trouble.
Yeah, I haven't. I asked somebody that we talked about this earlier today with somebody, and they didn't know, but they thought it was insured.
I would imagine with a player with his background, it would have to be.
Usually they are, and it's very rare. I mean, Horton was very rare. I mean, that was a rare circumstance. 99.9% of players are insured. So let's talk a little bit about the World Cup of hockey for a second, shall we? We also have preseason hockey starting up too, so I want to get into that as well because we have a lot going on here.
We have to talk about the Trouba thing, but let's talk about it first.
Let's start with the World Cup of hockey, then we'll go to Trouba, then we'll go to little Toronto Maple Leafs preseason there. So a couple things have happened over the last week that have kind of assured me of something, and that something is that we will not see a Team North America or a Team Europe ever again.
Right.
And one of the things was, talking to a player who, was off the record about it and said, I don't want the NHL to be mad at me or whatever, but who flat out said to me, he said, listen, and this is a good player on Team North America. I think this is one of the stars. Said to me, I really want to play for my country next time we do this. I said, this was fun. This was great. And playing with these guys was outstanding, but this feels like a halfway tournament to me. He says it doesn't feel like a real, like if I'm going to take time out, and risk my career, and risk getting hurt and all that stuff. He's like, it's good for pulling the sweater over my head that has my country's logo on it. So that's why we do it. That's what we do. And I think the fact is, when you look at the players this was a very unique situation. I don't blame the NHL for doing it this way this time, and I'm thrilled they did because honestly,
no, I don't blame them. I think it was good marketing for those players.
It was good marketing for those players, and honestly, this is such a unique group of under 24 players, under 23 players. Like you might not see this kind of group again. I mean, this is like this. We have superstar players on this team, and flat out, and we have superstars. We have elite players. We have crazy things on the team. So, but I don't think it's going to happen again because. First off, the fact is, if they're going to do this again in 4 years, which they want to do it again in 4 years, I've heard a couple things about that. One of them, and I'll write about this tomorrow. One of those things is, or maybe later today, one of those things is that Detroit has a good chance of hosting the next one of these. That it would be in Detroit. Detroit has a new building going up, and there's also been some talk that would be in Detroit and Toronto that they would do both.
Right.
Like they've done in previous World Cups hockey. Although I will say that it's just, I think based on the whole thing, it's just incredibly convenient to have it in one place. At least from my selfish media perspective, right?
Sure.
So, and for the media in general, you want to have, if you want to get the most media coverage, you want to have it in one place because everybody's going to be there the whole time. So that's good. But Detroit is a good place to put it. I've also heard Buffalo mentioned. I don't think it would go further into the United States than those two cities.
No, I agree.
That's the and those
Buffalo would be fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, two border towns that where Maple Leaf, and Toronto area fans can travel to very easily. Detroit being really nice because it's centrally located from some of the Midwestern Canadians as well. So, but you're getting further away from Montreal and the French Canadians. So there's that. I do think this will happen again in 4 years. I do think that there will be a play-in tournament for this. I think that really sounds like where they're going to go with it. Well, but Team North America will cease to exist because really when they look at it down the line, if you want to have a really good, strong Team USA, which you do,
right,
and you want to have a really, you want to have that feeling of these are the best players in America playing against the best players in Canada, which you do, you need to let that be the best players in America and the best players in Canada.
The only problem is if there is no Team Europe, there'll be a handful of players, 6 or 7 players.
Right. But that's what happens with the Olympics, right? And it is a shame. And I would say this, that Team Europe has a better chance of existing than Team North America does.
Right. The failure of Team USA guaranteed that there will not be a Team North America. Team USA Hockey is going to want Matthews, is going to want Eichel, is going to want Gostis.
Yeah.
They want those players on this team because those are the players of the new generation. As Kevin Allen said on the webcast last week, this generation clearly has proven that it's not good enough against the Russians and the Swedes and the Canadians, and they want to move forward with that new generation. Right. So the fact that North America had as much success and the USA fell flat on their face means that Team USA wants those players, and that's the reason why there won't be a Team North.
And there's another reason. No, there's another reason for this. Go ahead, you rest first. Yeah.
This is my only problem. My only problem is I have nothing against Team Europe. I think they've exceeded all expectations. The issue is they're playing defensive hockey. They're playing not to lose at times. And so now, unless Canada can win 10-0, if they lose, let's say Canada lose games 2-1 and 3-2, it's going to be pretty boring down the stretch here. And that's a worry because you're supposed to be marketing the game with this. And this team knows that they're playing really boring hockey, and they knew this is the way they can compete, and they're doing it. Nobody else is playing that way, and it's just I kind of wonder if the ratings are going to fail in the U.S. because of this. Just because Canada's in it doesn't mean it's going to do well in the U.S.
Right. I think that's true, and I think the ratings will be bad in the U.S. for this. I think they were going to be bad even if America did well in it. To be honest, I think that.
No, I think if the U.S. was in it, it would have done well, and if North America was in it, it would have done well. I think even if Sweden was in it, it would have done well because of guys like Lundqvist. But now this is the worst case scenario for the U.S. other than the Czechs.
It turned out to be a fortuitous scheduling yesterday because it ended up Team Europe versus Team Sweden, that the game was a 1 o'clock start because then people in Sweden and in Europe could watch it at a reasonable time.
Right.
But the fact is that if it wasn't Team Sweden versus Team Europe, you had this, a semifinal game going up against the NFL at 1 p.m. on ESPN, which guarantees you a .0001 rating. Honestly, if they're there to spread, the love and appreciation of hockey, ESPN did an absolutely horrible job at scheduling that game, or the NHL did a horrible job at scheduling that game at 1 p.m. I don't get it.
I'm going to think it was ESPN only because when ESPN buys like a product, right, they're looking to fill programming.
Right.
Now, ESPN on a Sunday has their pre-NFL show,
right,
but then that's it. They don't have the NFL. So they probably wanted something to go up against the NFL rather than showing World Table Tennis.
Or the Pro Bowlers Tour, which that doesn't do a service to the NHL of spreading the game of hockey, which
they're filling a grid, man. That's when ESPN gets something, they are filling a grid.
Yeah, I agree with that. There was a really funny moment because I watched the replay on ESPN, right? So I watched a little bit of this replay, and there was a really funny moment with Buccigross after the first period. I guess if you guys were watching on ESPN, you saw the line that Buccigross said to start the intermission of the first intermission was phenomenal. And this is why I miss Buccigross so much. Buccigross says, in the history of the NHL, in the history of hockey, in the history of first periods in hockey, that was one of them. It was a great line from Buccigross, because that really did sum up the Team Europe versus Team Sweden first period, right? Nothing happened. Brett Hull's been surprisingly good, though. I mean, he's gotten a lot of good compliments.
No, Brett Hull's been great. I think Chelios has been a little lazy in the studio. I do.
Chelios has like this.
Why isn't he showing? I'll tell you what. Here's something I told Mike, which I don't know why they're not doing. Once in a while, he'll talk about a defensive line, setup and what's working, what isn't. Why are we not seeing that illustrated? Why isn't he not using a telestrator saying this guy should be here? This guy is set up here. This guy pinched too early. Instead, he's just saying, "Hey, John Gibson, you could have played better." It's just lazy.
Thank you for that insightful commentary, Mr. Chelios.
Chelios has this voice this really kind of tired sounding voice, where it's almost uninterested sounding right now for some reason. I don't know what that is, and that's not normally Chelios. It makes me think that there's something else going on. But because Chelios is a funny character, he's really droll right now. I don't know what that is, but I mean, and I kind of missed to your point there, Russ, is what Scott Stevens did. I thought last year when he was doing this stuff. I know he's a coach now, but Scott Stevens was really good at that kind of stuff.
Yes, he was. He was great.
He was doing the X's and O's, which is what we really want, because what people keep forgetting about in this modern age of television and all is that you don't have to appeal to the lowest common denominator anymore. Like, the people who are watching hockey, they understand it. You can go a little bit above the he's making saves because that's what goalies do comments. Like you can really get this, beyond it. And for what you want to say about Melrose, he is what he is. Like I had to watch some of it because I had to get what people were saying.
Sure.
But at least, and I know that they work for NBC. At least you get some personality out of guys like Roenick, out of guys like Milbury. I know sometimes the commentary is not highbrow or the most of reflective of hockey IQ, but at least there's personality there. At least there's passion there.
Yeah,
I want to see Hull and Roenick together.
And with
that would be great.
with Chelios,
I think that would be good.
Yeah.
I do.
With Chelios, it's just like, do I really have to be here? Team USA isn't playing anymore. Do I really have to watch Europe versus Sweden?
He was excited for North America, but he wasn't excited really for many other teams. I have some ratings. Yahoo posted some ratings. All right, so they are disappointing. So USA Canada, that last game was 766,000. In the real world, what that means is it would be a top 10 game on NBCSN. That's it. If you want to compare it to the Olympics for USA Canada drew 4 million, and that was a noon game on a Friday. So imagine this. Noon on a Friday, it got 4 million. So it just shows that the Olympics do mean more than when you have a World Cup.
Right. And here's the other thing, right, that you really
But you also have to factor in with the Olympics that it's being placed right during the middle of the NHL season, where most people are not ready to watch hockey in early.
Okay, but wait for this rating. Now this one's going to kill you.
Okay.
So last week, Team Europe and Canada drew 287,000 viewers.
Wow.
And probably half of those were in Buffalo because Buffalo always gets the rate.
There's some perspective on that. The Montreal Canadiens in Montreal are always close to 1 million.
Yeah.
Just the Montreal Canadiens on a rogue Saturday night. That's.
Yeah, and this was ESPN2 at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday. Wednesday's actually a good TV day if you think about it.
Yeah.
And I think what's happening by having Team Europe and North America in there, besides just it definitely affecting the ratings.
It
is that you're also kind of going counter to what the NHL wanted out of this, which was the concept of, okay, let's get them something that they want to play in besides the Olympics. By not letting the younger players and even European players play for their countries, you're not competing with the Olympics anymore. You've made this into like another. You're not. They don't.
I think that's a fair statement. I think if you did have the powerhouse teams and you had McDavid on Canada and you had Matthews on the U.S. Yeah, you would have better ratings. I feel you're right.
Better ratings, and you'd also have the players more likely to say, "Okay, we'll do this instead of the Olympics." But the Olympics already are impossible to compete against because even if you put the best case scenario up, the Olympics are just the Olympics. That's what they are. They are beyond everything else. There's what players love. Honestly,
it gets the casual hockey viewer that doesn't watch hockey all year. That's what it gets.
It gets that, but also within the players who participate in it. They love it because you're going when you go to a town where the Olympics are. Like I can't tell you how amazing it was to be in Vancouver. Like just the feeling of that whole thing, the scene around there, unlike anything I've ever been. The whole it's like the whole town. You don't know when you have a party in your house and you spend like a week cleaning, trying to get it ready and make it look nice and everything, and your house will never look that way again.
Yeah,
I wouldn't know that.
That I know this very well. Okay, because I'm a mess and I often have to clean up the house before we have parties. So
you shouldn't tell people that, Ek, because there's always this thing. I know there's always this thing like, oh yeah, my house is always this clean. Yeah, come to my house any other day and it's forget.
My friends come over for parties and they're like, wow, this place is clean. They are the opposite of that. They completely get it. They know that this is not. So my wife and I have 21 arcade machines fused out throughout the house. From the 80s. It's not like we just don't care about this place looking immaculate. So, but when I went to Vancouver, it was like the whole city had done that for their city. It was like they took it and they made it so beautiful and everything was perfect.
They were on the world stage.
Right, and that's what happens, right? So it was, and that rubs off. And plus players, talking to players, there's this whole Olympic Village concept, which is so cool for players. They love to talk to like the speed skaters, and they like to talk to the other players. They love that concept. They love hanging out with other athletes. They don't get to hang out with other athletes like that.
Well, they do like it for other reasons too that we can't really talk about on the show. But you're right.
There's that, of course. But that's no different than a Tuesday in Winnipeg. But yeah, I think that this is, no, I agree that what you're having is in Vancouver, in the Olympics, it's just something that you can't compete with, and you really can't compete with it if you don't let people wear their jerseys of their countries. And I think that's
yeah, I think that's a fair statement. I mean, I'm not saying that this was a debacle or not a success. I'm just saying, as far as a TV event, it's not doing great.
Yeah, and I think that was the motivation to at least give a plausible option of not going to the Olympics. I mean, they may make money on this, but I don't know whether they're going to drive viewers to the World Cup unless they change. I mean, I think that you're right,
Well, I guess Mike, maybe you'll even know this. Would a Sabres preseason game or a Montreal preseason game get this kind of number? Because this is what we're in. We're in the preseason.
Get 280,000? Yeah,
they would.
So they would get that. Would they get the 766?
No, they wouldn't get 280. That's unfair. I can throw this out there because I know for a fact, talking to people at Comcast, okay, one of the highest rating teams they can put together for any game are the Flyers and the Penguins. That's a huge ratings thing. That's just one of those things that they look forward to. And Penguins ratings are in the 400,000s. Okay, that's where they are. So you're looking at, they're an average game. They would like an average Flyers game would be in the 200,000s. I wouldn't say that you would
still rating better than preseason games.
Sure, but
I mean, that's the best perspective I can give you on it. But
barely, and no, that's not to say. And honestly, to be there, it's a totally different situation.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, no doubt.
And I do think that this tournament will go down in lore as better than it was. It has that feeling to remember when McDavid and those guys played on the same team and Team Europe got to the final.
Because they're only going to show us the good plays anyhow. We're not going to see the bad plays.
Right. There's a couple things now. I mean, Team Europe making it to the final sucks maybe right now for ratings, but we'll have some bit of mythology to it down the line, I think. And will also increase it is good for hockey in those countries. There's no question about that. So there's a little bit of that going on too, for what it's worth. I think that.
Are they caring though? See, here's the thing. I'm not even seeing enough buzz for Team Europe on my Twitter feed where I have, writers from other countries and fans from other countries. I'm not seeing like a big push for that. Are you guys?
The one I'm seeing the country that I'm seeing the most active is Slovakia, right? That's the one I think that, and that's not surprising because that's probably the country that would be next.
They have the most players on the team. I think it was 6.
There's 8, right? They have 8, and there's 8 Germans on the team. So I think that. I'm not really seeing the buzz from Germany necessarily, but I'm seeing it from Slovakia, and there's a lot of Slovakian fans here. Like that, you're seeing that too. Yeah. So,
but to your point that you mentioned before, I think that the future of this maybe is a 12-team tournament that they have 8 teams play. To go down to 4, and then instead of having a Team Europe and a Team North America, have them play like a preliminary round. Maybe have that played in Europe. And then have the final 8 played, and maybe the top 4 finishers in this tournament would be the ones that would get the bye. I mean,
more like the World Cup of Soccer,
But I mean, Mike has more followers than Team Europe's Twitter handle.
Yeah, I know. And I tried. I put my anthem.
I have a better power play, Ross.
Yeah, I probably saw my national anthem of Europe that I put out.
Yes,
Europe anthem. It's too late, what I was told, to actually get it played because of clearances and stuff like that. But it's kind of I don't know. I do think it's weird that they don't play any anthem. Although they have sort of gone on, talking to them, they've kind of jumped on that as like a rallying cry that there is no one country they play for. They're not playing for anything. So I think that's fine if you need a rallying cry. But at this point, I think Kopitar is loving it. He's just, this is great. This is a little bit of revenge for these countries who always, get the shaft in the Olympics. And they're all sort of looking at it like that. I mean, they're a team. They're playing hard. They're a team, and I don't think they have a chance against Canada, like we've all said. I mean, is this greater?
Well, without Gaborik, they don't have much of a chance.
Is this bigger than the Miracle on Ice if they were to win this thing? I mean, that's the question.
Yeah.
It
would be close. I mean, the Miracle on Ice was obviously it was in the U.S. This would be like the U.S. Olympic team winning it in Moscow.
Right, and also it would like to be that U.S. Olympic team winning 2 out of 3 against the Russians, which I don't know would have happened, right? So that's like,
or even the Rangers winning in Mystery Alaska. But anyhow,
right. So
Russell Crowe is a great shot D.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's a lot there. I do think that I do think this tournament will be remembered fondly afterwards. And I think that I think Team North America and Team Europe memorabilia now will become a little bit valuable. I don't know about memorabilia, but
no, I think it will. I think it will be valuable, but I think this next game now that everybody's seeing Gaborik on crutches now, everybody's going to expect like an 8-1, 8-2 game.
Yeah, that's not going to happen though. I don't think, because I think that I don't know that's not going to happen, but put it this way, Canada's not in a really good spot right here. Like they can either win it or they can kill them, right? So it's
Mike Babcock will kill. He doesn't have like a little.
Oh, yeah, no, I know, but if they don't beat them, like if they win 2-1 or 3-2 or something like that tomorrow night.
Yeah, Canada's not in a bad spot. Mike Babcock is probably telling them in the locker room, "I want you to mercilessly beat this team to a pulp."
Right.
And then if they don't, then it gives Europe some, I would say, confidence. But I'm sorry. I mean, the odds.
Remember, Mike Babcock's got to live off of this for the next whole hockey season, where he might have a losing record again. So he's going to try his ass off.
Right.
Oh yeah. He is. Yeah, he is. I've got a couple cool things I'm going with the PlayStation 4. The new NHL 17 came out. Mm-hmm. So I've been putting together a couple things I'm going to do that I'm going to show that I think people will enjoy. That'll show some different kinds of scenarios had things been different. That are fun. But let's get into Jacob Trouba.
Wait. So what do you mean? Like, I have NHL 17. I'm going to review it. Should I create like Bill Barocco and put him back in it? Is that what you mean?
Nope. I can't say anything more. I don't want to.
All right.
It's a tease for the next couple of days. Look out for it. It's fun. Yes, that's all I'm going to say about that.
I don't have any airplanes in the background there, Russ.
No. All right, so Jacob Trouba. Okay, this has been known for a while. It's not really a secret that he wanted out. Winnipeg, but now officially he's come out and made the old, official statement to probably just to stir up, thinking that Jacob Trouba played pretty well for Team North America, and this is the time to try to move him, right? And this is a strange one though. This is a little bit weirder than I think people think it is, because the players on the Jets are really upset about this. More so upset than like Hamonic last year with the Islanders. I'm not saying that means that they like him more. I just think it's a little bit more surprising, as if they think that the players on the Jets seem to give the impression that there's a way of working this out.
Well, I mean, I saw the comment from, I think it was Matthew Perreault, who said, this guy's complaining and he's getting 22 minutes of ice time.
Yeah. No, there's a whole lot of.
Matthew Perreault is probably making more than $890,000 that Trouba is making currently.
Yeah, no, that's true too.
And this is the thing that's, I mean, okay. I think Trouba is an excellent young defenseman. I think now he hasn't put up a ton of points, but he's put up some pretty decent stats. And you have to factor in on that team, he's been mostly playing either out of position to play in the top four or playing right defense, playing with Mark Stewart on the bottom pairing.
Yeah.
So that affects his stats.
Yeah.
He's behind Myers and behind Bufflin. He's blocked in the sense that
I think it's fair to say that he's a 3-4 now in the NHL. Like, I think that's where he lies, right?
I think a 3 is fair. I mean, he could be. I mean, you don't want him to really be a 5. I think 3 is fair. I do.
Yeah, I don't think, but he was definitely considered to be a 1-2, right? That was where he was going to fall.
No, not always. I mean, there was the potential of him being that. Like, if you put him on the right team, then yes, he'll be a 1-2. But if you put him on a fairly deep team, a 3 is fair.
Yeah, I mean, if he's on the New Jersey Devils, he's on the top pairing. If he's on a team that has a couple pretty good defensemen, he's probably the best guy on the second pairing. But, second pairing defensemen right now are getting $5 million. And he, the statement that came out from Kurt Overhart, his agent, said that this was not about money, that it was about playing the right side, which he's played since he was 4 years old, and an opportunity.
Right.
I would think that they go hand in hand. It's about opportunity, but it's also about money, because he's coming off the entry-level deal. He sees players who are coming off their entry-level deals, like Morgan Riley, like a few other defensemen out there, and they're getting $5, $6, $6.5, $7 million, like Dougie Hamilton did. And he's like, I'm never going to get that in Winnipeg because they're paying Buffalo and they're paying and Myers is locked up. So I mean, this is a move for Trouba to free himself of a situation in Winnipeg where he's playing behind those guys and he wants to make what he thinks he deserves. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I understand Winnipeg players having a problem with it, but I don't think it's a bad thing.
No, I look at it this way. I think that the playing out of position is a legit thing because it does affect your earnings. So when the Rangers asked Brandon Dubinsky to move from the center position to left wing, they paid him. When they paid him and then it didn't work out at left wing, then they traded him, but he got paid, right? He got what he was worth.
Right.
So if Trouba got $7 million, he would play out of position.
Yeah.
Because then it wouldn't affect his earnings.
Yeah, because but I mean from what I mean, and we don't know what's going on, but if Winnipeg is asking him to take a bridge deal and to play out of position, then that affects what he's going to make down
Correct.
the line. You know, he's playing left D and he signs a 2-year deal for making less than $3 million, and he puts up a couple more years like he's put up right now, the first 3 years, under 30 points. Good luck for him trying to make 4, 4.5, or 5. There's no way that he'll do it.
And look, he's a better defender than Bufflin. He is.
Yeah.
And so Bufflin, you're banking it all on the offense. He will never be the offensive guy that Bufflin is. But he could literally cover anybody. You can put him in a shutdown situation, he'll do it. You could put him in a power play situation, he'll do it. At the end of the day, I think what's happening here is Winnipeg's the fourth lowest payroll team in the league. They took an arena that was maxed out seat-wise. They might be able to add a few here, a few there. So they always knew that they would be a budget team. And this is now what happens to a budget team that has a lot of draft picks, and those draft picks mature to age. And so like if you're going to pay these young guys, then you know what? Then you have to get rid of all your 30-something-year-old guys. There's just you're not going to have a happy medium.
Now, Ak, you may know more about you probably know more about this than you know what's being revealed to the public.
A little bit.
This morning, it came out that what Winnipeg is looking for, I think it was Bob McKenzie reported, that what they're looking for is a comparably aged defenseman, a left shot guy, somebody of equal value to Trouba. Good luck.
Yeah, it's not that.
No, there's no way. Like, okay, I mean,
but that's not the issue too. The issue is, and they might be looking for that. The other issue is though, is somebody who you got to find a team who's willing to pay $6 million for that.
Right.
You know, like
right.
That's the big problem here. Like you can find a player that's equal to Trouba and move one for one, but those players who are equal to Trouba are not.
Yeah, nobody's taking him without him being signed at this point.
Right, and most of those players you move for Trouba, you know, equally. Like say like someone brought up Travis Sanheim. Okay, all right, just throw that out there for a second. Who I think is left-handed, right?
I believe he is.
Yeah. I think he's left-handed. Yeah. So Travis Sanheim, you could say, okay, equal potential to Trouba, maybe. I don't know, maybe less. Tough to say. But you know, an entry-level contract guy. You know, so it's like you're not looking at any kind of like the Flyers are not going to pay $6 million to Trouba.
No, they would have to put Streit in that deal just to float it.
And that's something that I wouldn't be shocked if they tried to do. But I think that to make that and Streit, you know, could be. I mean, he's got the highest Corsi rating on Team Europe or whatever I was hearing, right? So.
Stop.
I know. Tell me about it. Russ, you know, for me to even say that, I feel like a part of me died as I said those words. I'm with you 100%. Like I can't even.
We watch Mark Streit every regular season. I don't care what his Corsi rating is in a tournament. I don't.
I know, and it's just like, and watching him, I don't think he's been playing well in the tournament.
No.
So it's like whatever this Corsi, however this Corsi thing is happening, I don't get it. I mean, Bellemar's the second.
Fail the eye test and do well in Corsi. That's what it proves.
That's what's proving. The second highest is Bellemare. Bellamar's played well. Okay, I get that. He's looked good. But you know, oh man, Streit has not.
Bellemare is good. I mean, I will tell you, he has passed the eye test too. He is legitimately a tremendous defender in the NHL. He's annoying. He does occasionally give you a little offense. And he's a good guy in the room, so there are a lot of pluses to Bellemare.
Yeah, he's been impressive.
The problem in this deal situation, if teams are trying to make trades for Trouba, is the fact that if Winnipeg wants a comparably aged defenseman, unless there's a situation out there that is reflecting what's going on in Winnipeg with Trouba, That's not going to happen. I mean, Buffalo's not going to give up Ristolainen. Ristolainen's a right-hand shot anyway.
Right.
Buffalo's not going to give up Ristolainen. Anaheim is not going to give up a Hampus Lindholm. I don't think, maybe Cam Fowler is an answer, but the thing is, Cam Fowler 2 years and he probably goes free agency and wouldn't want to stay in Winnipeg. If you get somebody who's maybe a little older who would want to stay in Winnipeg, then that might be the makings of a deal. But there's no real good fit here. A team like New Jersey, they need a Trouba badly. But who are they going to give up? Are they going to give up Andy Green or Damon Severson? I mean, that's not going to do.
Right.
I mean, the only name that I've heard that makes any sense at all, and this might be screwing some. I think I can say this is Shattenkirk. Okay, so I think that, and that to me made some sense because. But
he won't. Isn't he a right-hand shot too? And he won't sign in Winnipeg.
Right-hand shot too. But he's played on the left-hand side more, and you can have you can get him, and will he sign in Winnipeg? It's a good question. He might because I mean Shattenkirk is.
I don't think he would. I think he would go UFA.
Yeah, and the question is, what do you get more in value if you're Kevin Cheveldayoff? Trouba, who's an RFA who might hold out, but he's under control for at least 4 more years, or Shattenkirk, who if you traded for him, you only have him under control for 1 more year, and then you have a gun to your head. I think it's Trouba.
This is the problem with Shattenkirk. At this point, he's not extending with anybody unless it's the Rangers, Devils, Islanders, or anybody else on the East Coast. He's pretty much going to play on the East Coast. Boston. That's the other team.
Yeah, but I agree, and I think that Shattenkirk is, and there's other issues with Shattenkirk too. That where he's got his detractors big time. So.
Yeah, again,
nothing against him. I mean, again, he's a good player, but I'm just saying he's not.
He's a good player. He was an all-star 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, no, he's a very good player, and
we can get very nitpicky about.
Oh yeah, no, I know, but there's just it's unfortunate. This is the way the NHL works, and you know this, Russ. Like people get, I'm talking about this before, the one-line description of them that everybody thinks of, like, and Shattenkirk has a line, that he's not hard to play against. And that's honestly the truth, and that's what you hear about all the time. It's like, yeah, he's, I forget who was
first. How hard
is
it to play against Tyson Barrie?
Oh, I know. I'm not, and that's why I'm saying this is not fair.
How hard is it to play against Mark Streit, who got all that money?
This is not fair, but this is the reality of it, right? So the reality of it, and I don't think that's fair at all. I think Shattenkirk is a very good power play defenseman.
And that's one of the pluses of Trouba is the fact that he's 6'2", 200 pounds, and he's tough to play against. So those guys, and he can move. So, and the thing is, it's like unless like Carolina is willing to trade Justin Falk or somebody who's locked up for 5 or 6 years, the team is all of a sudden willing to trade that guy for Trouba. I think Kevin Cheveldayoff is barking up the wrong tree if he's expecting a one for one. I think it's more likely that there's a 2-for-1 deal out there where they get a defenseman and they get a good forward prospect. That will be a deal that's easier to make. But a 1-for-1,
they take a problem like Streit and something else, but not Streit. Not. There's not a fit with the Flyers, but they could take a problem. Problem per problem happens a lot with another thing thrown in there. But I want to throw this out there though, she was eyeing me all morning and basically saying that in Winnipeg, they're all over the radio that the Jets are going after Provorov, right? That's the big thing in Winnipeg. That Chevy tried to trade up for Provorov at the draft, left Provorov, and I asked them.
They're going to have to take Mark Streit back. There's just no other way to float that.
But even then, no. Even then,
I would never say no, Eck. Never say no.
No. Actually, they wouldn't have to take Mark Streit back because Mark Streit's only got a year left. They'd have to take Andrew McDonald back.
Probably, yeah. They probably have to take McDonald. Yeah.
I'll tell you how much of a no it is. I will read the text message from somebody in the Flyers organization who talked about this. Okay, so this is what they said. Quotes, seriously, question mark, haha, period, no.
I think it's no right now. Look, we know enough in sports that it's never no. Wayne Gretzky got.
Oh yeah, no, that's never no. But they are so high on Provorov.
Yes, right. And they should be. Here's the funny thing about Shattenkirk: how many defensemen in the last 3 years have gotten 44 or 45 points every year? Last year he got 14 goals. 8 of them were even strength. Like this is not just like your run-of-the-mill offensive defenseman. Right. Everybody is beating this guy up, and Keith Yandel is not even as good as Kevin Shattenkirk.
Right, but see, the main problem is right now, Russ, is that he's a diminishing return for St. Louis in terms of what they can get for him because he's not going to sign an extension.
No, I know, but he's 27. It's funny how he's getting beat up.
Yeah.
I'm telling you,
it's totally unfair. I do, and I think it's totally unfair. I think a part of it is the kind of personality he has, which is not a combative type guy, and people translate that into on the ice, right? And that's not necessarily the case. I mean, like Bobby Ryan's a perfect example, right? A super nice guy, sweetheart of a guy, who's just, obviously wrote this great story about his, how much he cares about his mother and all these things like that, and then he goes and beats the hell out of this guy. I mean, it doesn't necessally mean just because.
I'll give you a perfect example. I remember when I was working on the Ranger Greats book, I called John Halligan, and he was alive at the time, and we were talking about Dave Schultz, and he spent his whole career with the Rangers as a PR guy dealing with Dave Schultz, and I said, boy, I got some great stuff off of Dave Schultz. He's such a nice guy. And John's listening to me go on, and at the end he goes, yeah, he's a regular effing choir boy, and he started laughing. Because that's, you can't translate that. That's the point.
It does not translate, and that's the bottom line. And I think it's unfair on Shattenkirk, but that's the rep that he's got, and that's what's holding back a lot of these deals. There's a couple teams that don't feel that, but that's what's happening. So Trouba's going to be Trouba's not going to happen very quickly at all.
And one of the reasons that it won't happen quickly is because the teams that are mostly interested in him don't have the cap room unless, like I say, it is a Philadelphia, unless they trade somebody back with significant salary to balance the books. These teams can't fit a $6 million defenseman right now unless there's money moved the other way. So unless
you're the Devils, okay.
But I
also have to get Trouba for like 6 years. He's not taking anything less.
Right. I don't see Winnipeg being very, very willing to take a big salary back just to move Trouba.
Well, here's the thing. All right, so we've done this little tap dance now, and the one thing we haven't talked about is the reason the players are probably upset is because they could see that Winnipeg doesn't want to pay this guy $7 million, and somewhere along the line, there will be some players that are worth $7 million, and they're probably wondering if Winnipeg will pay them, and it's fair to wonder that.
Right. You know what this is, Russ? This is an Ottawa Senators scenario. They pick and choose. Like, we'll pay Bobby Ryan $7 million, but when it comes to paying somebody else, I mean, how long did it take Hoffman to get his deal? And how much do you want to bet that after the first year of that contract where he's being paid underneath what his AAV is, he gets moved out because then they actually have to start paying him? They've signed Wheeler, they've signed Bufflin, they got Myers. Myers is a bargain deal because it was a long-term extension with Buffalo. They've signed Little. He's got a few more years left, and now they've got the young guys like Ehlers and Laine on entry-level deals. But
Laine, right? There's no way when Laine's first contract is up that he will ever accept a bridge deal.
No,
never.
No, and I said that that was one of my texts back to the Flyer guy was what about for Laine? He's like, all right, we'll do that. So that's
right.
That's how highly they think of Provorov, though, and
But I mean, down the road, Winnipeg will have to pay Laine early. He's not going to take a bridge deal. He's just not going to do it.
No. I have to go, guys. But I know Mike, since you're actually running the show, you guys can go on a little bit longer if you want to and finish the conversation. I'm sorry, but I do have to run. That was an interesting call there too. So, but I will be back again tomorrow. I think tomorrow's show is going to work better if it's like 4-ish, 3 or 4.
I could do 4. I've got to go to the actual Flyers game after that, so that's fine.
Right. Okay, cool. All right, we'll do a preview of tomorrow's game, of tomorrow's, obviously, World Cup hockey, but I'll see you guys later. Thank you, guys.
Okay. Yeah, bro, just a final note. I mean, Rasmus Ristolainen did not show up at Buffalo Sabres training camp. So I don't know if you can consider him a holdout, but the funny thing was a couple weeks ago, before the World Cup started, they said that this situation would be resolved after the World Cup. Well, apparently it's not resolved because he's not at training camp.
I think that was a reminder to get it resolved.
Well, I mean, see, this is the thing, and if you look at the salary structure with the Sabres, and I understand, what's going on here. You've got 3 real core players. You've got Eichel, you've got Sam Reinhart, and you've got Ristolainen. They have a lot of money tied up in guys who are non-core players, and that's the thing. Evander Kane, Zach Bogosian.
But that's not Ristolainen's fault, right?
No, it's not Ristolainen's fault, but that's what might be limiting the Sabres in terms of their willingness to sign Ristolainen to a long-term contract. I don't think it should because he's their best defenseman. He's a minutes eater. He's a 25-minute a night.
He's their number one. Like, there's no way you can't. I mean, what will happen is if they somehow get him to sign a bridge deal now, that next deal will be a killer.
Yeah, this is a PK Subban scenario. If they
Yes.
sign, if they hold his feet to the fire and try to get him on a 2-year deal and get him for $3 million, they could end up paying maybe not 9, because that's what Subban got, was 9, but they could end up probably paying a number that starts with an 8, and that to me is just stupid. I think
mean, he's 6'4", he's 207, he had 41 points. Yeah. The 2 years before he had 20 points, but clearly he was young. He's only 21. Like, I think you have enough of a window here to say, okay, look, we should just sign this guy to the 8-year deal, and we'll limit his AAV because of that. But we could definitely, get a number. Hey, look, if that means you have to trade Evander Kane, then you have to trade Evander Kane. I don't know if it'll be easy, and you might have to eat half the salary, but that's something that would have to be done, because this is your number one guy. You can't fool around with this.
Yeah, I mean, but Evander Kane and Brian Giunta and Josh Georges. I mean, there's so much money that I think is being spent on guys who are, and they just spent big money on Kyle Oposo. So I mean, there's a lot invested right now in Buffalo to make a playoff run this year. A lot of excitement. I'm not sure how good they are, if they're good enough to make that run. But part of that run,
they're not making the playoffs if somehow Ristolainen's a holdout.
Exactly. Part of that run is having that guy as your linchpin number one defenseman, running your power play, eating up 25 minutes. And if he's not there, or if there's a holdout and he stays out 10 or 15 games, that's going to affect the Sabres' ability to make the playoffs. So I think they're going to get this done. And not to say throw money at it and give him everything he wants, but I'm saying $6.5 million on an 8-year deal. Lock him up, get it done.
And I'm just letting you know, because I was tweeted about who would you trade for if you were the Leafs for Trouba, and I did put who we talked about offline, Gardner and Kapanen, and everybody wants that deal done.
In terms of the Leaf fans, or in terms of
Leaf fans would love to have that deal done.
Well, Jake Gardner is not well loved, but I mean,
but he is. But if he goes to another team, he is a really good skating offensive defenseman. He is.
Yeah, and I'll just explain this briefly. The reason why and it was not a rumor that I heard, not this complete guesswork. Looking at what Winnipeg would be looking for, looking at what the Leafs might be willing to give up. In that deal, Gardner's under contract for 2 more years, making a little over $4 million. He's from Minnesota, just like Bufflin was, which might contribute to him being more willing to re-sign in Winnipeg, which is close to Minnesota.
Yeah.
Kapanen, a member of the Finnish team at the World Junior, teammate of Patrick Laine, would maybe have a clearer road to get an opportunity at the NHL in Winnipeg. I mean, they have a lot of forwards. They're very deep, but so are the Leafs. And it seems like he's blocked behind Nylander and Marner and a few other guys in the Leaf organization. So I think it would be and the Leafs might have to even give up a little more. But right now, right shot D for Toronto. Pollock is a UFA at the end of this year. They've got veteran guys like Matt Hunwick will be out. And right now, the only right-hand D that's really legitimately in the top 4 would be Zaitsev, and he's never even played an NHL game. So it might take more than that, and maybe that's not something that Cheveldayoff would be interested in. But I think it's in the realm of possibility in terms of what they would have to get.
Look, I think Winnipeg's built a really good organization, but I think if they don't spend to the cap, this is just my guess, that I think that they're going to have to part with another big veteran pretty soon to be able to afford their younger players. It's just economics.
Yeah, in 2 years, I mean, they can re-sign Ehlers to a new contract after this season, because he'll have 1 year left in his entry level deal. In 3 years or in 2 years, they could extend Laine. And if I was them, I'd try to sign him for 8 years and give him whatever he wants if he's as good as people think he is. So, I mean, yeah, they really have to get their house in order, and they have some expiring contracts, guys like Enstrom, who are falling off the books. I'm not sure how many years Little has left.
Pavelec, too, right? He's off, right?
Yeah, Pavelec is up after this year.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, there's some areas where they need to save, but you've got and now I think it's impossible to get Trouba locked up long term. Now I think it's just maximizing what value you can get back in a trade. So we'll see what happens. All right, for Eklund, who was at that CIA site in Toronto,
and Perla, we put her to sleep.
And Pearl was listening to me, so she's out like a light. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.